All right, good morning and welcome to the Symposium Defining Sustainability in the Poultry Industry. My name is Katie Tarrant. I'm a faculty member at California State University, Fresno, and I'm going to start the symposium off with a brief introduction that discusses some basics on this type of definition and also how we approach it from a multidisciplinary perspective. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about our workings within the PSA Environmental Quality and Sustainability Committee. Back in 2022, I was appointed as the committee chair. So my co-committee members and myself decided with our first meeting we were going to take on the task of defining sustainability. Thought that that would be great for PSA to have in their back pocket, but it would also help our committee better reflect the charge that we had been given. And my notes from my minute meeting notes from that meeting are actually pretty blank because developing this type of definition for an organization that represents so many levels across the supply chain, academics, really was an arduous task. So we were not successful. Not to be deterred, the committee decided, all right, so let's figure out what the rest of the PSA membership might be interested in learning more about if we were to discuss sustainability at a symposium at this meeting. So you might have seen this email come across your desk last summer. And it asked for the respondents to answer a number of, from a number of responses, what they'd be most interested in. We had 133 folks participate, and 633 total responses were made. So we have a lot of different options, but our most popular option, of course, was that modern definition of sustainability in the poultry industry. So clearly we are all very interested in understanding what that is. Now, this symposium has this umbrella theme of looking at this definition, but there are many other topics of interest that we will cover on the responses that were responded to. So with that, officially welcome to our Defining Sustainability in the Poultry Industry. I'm going to start with sharing from you what a couple of corporations with a lot bigger budget than our committee has put into developing that sustainability definition and strategy. So what seems to be fairly common for the groups I have up here and many others is that these organizations are identifying 3 pillars or objectives that they're really prioritizing. And after they identify those 3, they'll give a little bit more in-depth definition of what sustainability is to the company, and they go even further into the detail as to how they are going to meet those sustainability metrics, what's going to be evaluated, what they are going to do to make change. Now, at the end of the day, these 3 categories are fairly similar throughout many of the organizations if you just look online. When we think about sustainability, most people are immediately thinking about environment. So planet, environment, climate, all of that's pretty reflective in these 3 pillars. However, from a holistic approach of sustainability, it goes beyond just the environment. And so to really have a broader scope and understanding of what sustainability is, we have to think beyond that environment. So you'll see some commonalities of economics, of people, community, social, and of the animals. So to refine this, you have internal stakeholders, external stakeholders that are contributing their cultures and their values to really getting into deep exactly what that sustainability definition is for the organization. But it's important to note that while all of these topics can be important, that an organization is limited in what their ability to optimize everything sustainability can encompass. Of course, this is because everything comes at a cost. So they have to have the funds to contribute to these different areas. So when we think about these definitions that go beyond just those 3 broad pillars or objectives, those pillars are going to help kind of inform what those next steps and their sustainability plan is going to be, and that's going to be specialized depending on the perspective of the organization. So they might be looking at, each organization has to identify what metrics are they going to be using, which benchmarks they're going to be set, how those are set, how they can be met, how frequently reporting might be, and depending on that, action plans. If a benchmark isn't set, then what's next? If it is met, do we keep it there? Are we happy? Or are we going to push it further? So all of this comes into an added level of complexity when we think about transparency and what an organization is reporting to who. Because of course, transparency is an added consideration that really helps us understand how our sustainability definition has been met within that organization. So I'm going to give you a personal perspective. The organization that I represent is California State University, Fresno, or Fresno State. We are a university in the Central Valley of California. We are in an area that has I think, the 5th largest agriculture economic value worldwide, so very agriculture dense. We have about 24,000 students. We're a Hispanic serving institution, and about 80% of our students come from our county or surrounding county. So we are very regionally focused. Another the crown jewel of our university is our campus farm. So in the middle of a very highly densely populated urban area is the farm, but you can see in the top of that picture, that's the farm that's connected to campus. So it is not a satellite location, it is right there in the middle of Fresno. On the farm, we have a 20,000 head broiler chicken house. We run about 5 flocks per year. It's a contract facility, and it is a student-led facility. So we have about 10 students at any given time who are participating in activities at that poultry unit. Another thing to note about Fresno is that it's an area of high poverty levels. It exceeds that of the nation and state average. And in addition to that, about 40% of our student population is food insecure. So out of my 10 students, 4 of them already cannot afford the poultry that we're producing in the house of the birds that they care for. So my definition of sustainability for my organization, planet is definitely important, poultry is definitely important, but it is critical that I am focusing on my most important feature here, and that is my students. Now, myself as a university faculty, my university is not the same as somebody else's. So while these students are my main priority, with those 40% being food insecure, even a similar organization might not have this same type of definition for sustainability because they're in a different circumstance. So again, Planet Poultry, still very critical pillars for us, but people is really going to be where we need to emphasize. So from my perspective at my organization, which of these metrics are going to rise to the top? For me, that's accessibility to food, affordability of food, food education. And again, my definition is reflective of my student needs. So what am I able to influence? And that comes down to the resources that I have as an academic. So I directly can influence access to food by providing some of the product we produce to the student cupboard to make sure it's accessible. I can also help assist the unit manager in making sure our costs are not rising so that the product that we're producing stays at that affordable price point. And while I myself am not in the food or nutrition type education area within my university, it's definitely something that I can look to advocate. So I'm not directly working in that specific area, but it can still be a priority for me in my sustainability journey. So the symposium that we're going to be going over today features experts from many different disciplines who are going to talk about different methodologies and technologies that they are using to tackle some of the most critical questions that we have in sustainability. Those topics are going to include One Health, water usage and processing, food manufacturing, digital tools, and education. So a detailed working definition to tease out values really lets us emphasize what is important to that entity. So With that being said, I asked our speakers to share with me what their definition specific to their field of sustainability is, so I can share that with you. And I'm not going to read all of those out to you. There are a few key statements that I'm going to point out just so you can get an idea of the different variety of focus areas that folks have when we're talking about sustainability. So that is considering management systems, efficient uses of our resources, considering production as well as regeneration, and ensuring that we verify what is being done as well as balancing. So with all of this being said, partnering is a critical component for this continuous journey in ensuring that we have a holistic view of sustainability. And that involves bringing in stakeholders from across the supply chain, NGOs, bringing in research academics who can complete research that industry cannot manage themselves alone. So groups such as the ones that are on screen have done that and put those types of working groups together. And the benefit of this is that they are able to bring together a diverse group of voices to make sure that all levels of sustainability can be considered. And they do face a lot of challenges, especially those that are international in scope, because what makes sense in one region or one country from a sustainability standpoint doesn't always make sense or is not easily translated into other regions. However, these partnerships represent our best opportunity to ensure that these diverse voices and perspectives from across the poultry field is considered so that we can achieve this more holistic approach. All right. So through this symposium, you were going to be seeing this QR code a couple of times. It links directly to a Google form. So at 10:55, we're going to have a Q&A session with our speakers. If you want to come up to the microphone, you definitely can do that. If you would like to submit your question via this QR code, please feel free to make that selection. You can direct it to the person that you want on the panel from that Google form. So with that being said, I am going to leave you with a quote to think about when we're thinking about sustainability, and that is sustainability, or let's highlight that sustainability is a continuous journey. So thinking that we get to a certain level and we're done is not realistic.